Is Friday, June 28th, 2024, and I'm calling this meeting of the MDTA Board to order at 1:02 p.m. This afternoon, we are having our meeting in person at MDTA headquarters, and in accordance with the live streaming law, the meeting is being live streamed on the MDTA Board webpage. I would like to say welcome to the members of and the staff who are. We'll do it again then, you know?
Good practice, Rob.
Thank you so much. Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Samantha Biddle, and I'm the acting chairperson of the Maryland Transportation Authority Board. Today is Friday, June 28th, 2024, and I'm calling this meeting of the MDTA Board to order at 1:02 p.m. This afternoon, we are having our meeting in person at MDTA headquarters, and in accordance with the live streaming law, this meeting is being live streamed on the MDTA Board webpage. I would like to say welcome to our members and staff who are with us today, and also to our members who are joining us on the phone via conference call, members Carol and Sneed. As a reminder, I ask that everyone with us this afternoon refrain from speaking unless you are presenting or answering a question to avoid background noise on the live stream. I'd also like to ask members to speak loudly and clearly, turn on your microphones as I've learned, so that in the back of the room, those are able to hear you. And also please say your name when motioning or seconding to help our staff out with the meeting minutes. There are no members of the public, no elected officials, and no media who have pre-registered to comment at this afternoon's meeting. And for those who are watching this meeting via live stream, we have posted the materials for today's meeting on the MDTA Board webpage, so you can follow along if you would like. We will now begin with today's agenda. This afternoon's first agenda item is approval of the open session meeting minutes from May 30th, 2024.
Move for approval, Member Cox. Member Jimmy, I'll second.
I think Aunt Jimmy may have had you there. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Thank you, members. Didn't want to overlook. Yeah, the members in the room here of swift actions today. All right, moving along to number 2 on the agenda. This morning we have Donna DeCerbo presenting our contracts.
Good morning.
Good afternoon.
Well, it's afternoon today. Happy Friday, everyone. For the record, Donna DeCerbo, Director of Procurement for the MDTA. The first contract is FT 3016-0000 for cleaning and painting structural steel on various North Canary bridges. The work to be performed is at the facility, and the scope includes cleaning and painting of the steel members and performing miscellaneous repairs on those bridges north and south of the tunnel. We advertised this contract on December 5th of 2023. We received 3 bids from Sappho, Blastech, and Titan Industrial Enterprises. This contract had a MBE goal of 21%. We're recommending award to Sappho Contractors, Inc. in the amount of $22,977,770. They are exceeding the MBE goal and meeting the VSBE goal of 1%. There was no protest received on this contract, so we're recommending award. Anticipated notice to proceed on your item says May, but we're going to update that to July. Okay.
All right, any questions for Donna on this item?
I just have, this member Von Paris, I have a question. On the bid protest, it looks like yes is checked. Is that on my copy?
It does say yes. I'll verify that and report back out before the end of the meeting.
Thank you.
All right, would it be helpful to table this one for action until later in the meeting so Donna can verify that?
Do we have anyone from construction in the room who could speak to this? We could table till the end of the meeting and
Let's do that.
I'll update. Okay? My apologies.
All right, do you want to go through the second one? And then I guess we'll just hold a vote on both until the end. But do you want to
Okay, that's fine.
present the second one right now?
Separately.
Oh, we do. Thank you so much. All right, we'll do the second
Present
one.
the second one?
Yes, thank you.
All right, thank you. This is a contract TE 00210-910. The contract title is CTI On-Time Traffic Control System Maintenance. It is a sole source contract for software maintenance on our facilities. There's miscellaneous services to include software views, the videos from the CCTV cameras, control the lane use signals, enhanced lane use signals, or the ELUS, dynamic messaging signs, two-way flashers, illuminated pavement markers, and gates on the Bay Bridge. These services include 24-hour, 7 days a week support through a dedicated CTI technical support number and email address. The contractor is Control Technologies CTI. Their bid amount was $490,362. I do have a correction to this item. The engineer's estimate currently reflects $479,714. That was an old fund certification number. The correct engineer's estimate was $527,685.40. The variance to the engineer's estimate was 7%, so CTI's bid was actually 7% lower than the engineer's estimate, and their price was determined to be fair and reasonable. There were no protests on this item.
Noted.
Madam Secretary.
Yes, sir.
Donna, have they done a lot of work or a little bit of work or a medium amount of work for MDTA in the past?
Unfortunately, Richard is not here. I cannot speak to that. Richard is on vacation, so I'll get you that answer.
Okay, no problem.
I'm sorry. They are the incumbent.
Okay, all right. They're the incumbent?
Yes, because it's
Fine.
proprietary software.
And sole source, okay,
It's
fine.
been around for
Okay.
a bit. It's been
Good,
around
okay,
for a bit,
fine.
and so.
No
if
no
we-
problem, Madam Secretary.
Right. If we were to bid it, obviously, we'd have to
Fine.
put it out to the market and potentially change our entire system, which could be very expensive. So, thank you, Deb.
Thank you, Member Cox. Any other questions for Donna on this item?
Make a motion that we approve this contract?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second from Member Cox. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Donna.
Aye.
Sorry, I keep forgetting about those of you on the line. All right, we can now, we will come back for contract award FT 3016 at the end of the meeting pending the updates that members requested. But for now, let's move on to number 3 on the agenda, the approval item for the FY24 budget amendment. Jeffrey Brown, thank you.
Okay, good afternoon. For the record, my name is Jeffrey Brown, Budget Director of the MDTA. As a result of the Key Bridge collapse, the MDTA is requesting approval of an amendment to increase the fiscal year 2024 operating budget by $85 million to $485.1 million. Per the trust agreement, the budget can be amended at any time during the current fiscal year. The $85 million increase represents a 21.2% increase versus the previous fiscal 24 budget. For review and analysis purposes, I'm breaking the $85 million into 2 different pieces, a $60 million piece and a $25 million piece. As part of the emergency response, the state of Maryland received $60 million in initial emergency relief funding to support debris salvage and removal cleanup. This amendment includes the $60 million in funding in accordance with the provided federal funds. In addition, we're requesting $25 million for additional debris and salvage costs removal, and we anticipate insurance proceeds will cover these costs. After accounting for this $85 million budget, the MDTA will remain in compliance with its financial goals and legal standards for the fiscal year. I'd like to provide a little bit more detail on the $60 million and the $25 million. In accordance with financial statement accounting rules, debris and salvage removal costs are considered operating expenses, which is why we're requesting the amendment. In addition, the $60 million is the unanticipated, with regards to the original budget, debris and salvage removal costs that we expect to incur by June 30th. In addition, the $25 million is for additional debris and salvage removal costs that is anticipated to be accrued, whether or not the services are actually rendered by June 30th for the financial statements of fiscal year 2024. Originally, we had anticipated requesting a budget amendment to fiscal year 2025, where the additional costs were actually being incurred. However, due to accounting requirements considering future liabilities that are both probable and estimable, the MDTA is required to recognize those costs in fiscal 2024. As a result of these additional funding, this should mitigate the need to recognize a separate environmental liability expense. These additional, as mentioned above, these additional expenses will be covered from insurance proceeds. In addition, the use of these proceeds will reduce the amount of proceeds available for the reconstruction of the bridge, which in turn will increase the amount that we will request for federal emergency relief funding to reconstruct the bridge. Lastly, we are asking for a discretionary contingent approval to further increase the operating budget by $15 million for additional salvage and debris removal costs. This is being requested to mitigate the possibility of expenses exceeding the operating budget. If we exceed the operating budget, that would result in a violation of the trust agreement. As a condition of this approval, the MDTA will be reporting to the board on any fiscal year 2024 debris and salvage expenses that are recognized against this discretionary approval. Any additional liabilities are as mentioned above, these additional expenses are anticipated to be covered from insurance proceeds. Should we need the entire additional discretionary budget, the MDTA will still remain within its financial standards, including the 2 times debt service coverage. Concludes my review. I'm happy to take any questions at this time.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
When we were out visiting the site, they mentioned how they were going to try to recycle, or they were recycling a good bit of the metal that they recovered. Is that figured in this budget, or is that just
Directly accounting for that, no, but I'm assuming as we go through the process of finding all the expenses and offsets, it would probably be included as an entire review, but specifically for this specific case, no, that was not included.
Anything to add, Deb?
how is it going? How much have we gotten? Do you know, Deb?
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know how much we've received at this point in time. It is being tracked.
Right.
And from an accounting perspective, we record revenue and expenses separately. We don't net them. So that's the reason why that is not incorporated into these, that the operating budget is separate.
What do you think a time frame might be when we would have a sense of the potential revenue side of things, to the member's point?
I mean, we know, I don't know this minute, just because I don't recall, but I'm sure we have a rough estimate because we know how much we receive per ton, and we know how many tons are anticipated. I just don't know that number sitting here right now.
Any other questions?
This is Member Von Paris. I have just a couple of quick questions. I know this is, as has been said by others, an extraordinary situation, emergency situation that we're dealing with, and I'm commend everyone for doing an exceptional job with that. I also, I think that, I know we're talking a lot of money here, 85 million, and I know I guess the calculation for that, to get to that point, was made based on certain criteria. And I just, I would hope that we have some means, some standards to measure the process or the productivity or the, in a way that we can reasonably validate or, verify the work is being done, rather than not have something like that in place. So can you comment on that a little bit?
Sure.
Was I clear on that? or-
Yes, you want to make sure that the $85 million that we are, likely spending, that we're receiving $85 million worth of services. And the Office of Engineering and Construction, they have very strong record keeping throughout this process. And, outside consultants, inspectors, that they, not even specifically talking about this particular contract, but any construction contract. They have strong procedures in place to ensure that the work that's performed is what we're charged for. And I feel comfortable making that blanket statement across any construction project.
Right,
Not just this one.
And the reason I said this is this was an emergency situation, but we still have to verify. So I appreciate your answer. Thank you.
Deb, would it be fair to say that part of the reason for splitting it up like this is kind of where we are right now at the end of the fiscal year and based upon what we know from invoices that we've received to date, but that there's still maybe a tail to that as we look to close out this fiscal year?
Yeah, absolutely. If we were in the beginning of the fiscal year, we wouldn't be asking for the discretionary authority. We expect if there's any additional liabilities that we have specific to salvage and debris, I would anticipate that we would have an idea of that before we issue the statements on October 1st. So it's the timing of where we are with the fiscal year ending that's pushing some of this.
Thanks. Member Arndinger?
Thank you, everyone, and all the hard work you're doing on this. And I understand and I appreciate the fact that with this 15 million, you'll be giving us an accounting as time goes on. Not to ask for additional items, but is it possible too that as we see some type of return on that, either proceeds from the insurance or from the federal government, that we can also be given a net figure as those items are received? I know that's a ways off, but.
Yeah. So basically an accounting of the cash flow.
Yes,
Yeah, we can certainly do that. We'll have to figure out the right timing of when we do that. It might make the most sense that we add that to our next financial forecast update, because cash flow is such a critical element of that forecast we'll figure out the timing when to do it, but this moment, that seems to be the right time. And our next update for a forecast would be in November.
Thank you.
Member Von Paris, did you have a second question?
I know, I'm fine.
Of course. Nice job. Any other questions for our presenters?
Real
on
quick.
this?
So are we going to apply for the insurance funds now? Sounds that way, is that right?
The insurance proceeds are very near, receipt. There is a release form that needs to be signed, and Chubb has committed to paying within 30 days of that form. It's in final reviews, let me call them tweaks of adjustments, and then, will be circulated for final signature.
For the next couple of months, probably. You hope to get it, I guess.
Yes.
So just from a technical perspective, so we receive those funds, and these are held in reserve until a future point in which they are spent, because we've already received the 60. So then the next step, then now we're going to use 25 of that.
So the 60, we haven't drawn the 60, it's there. We're working, State Highway Administration is the federal conduit with Federal Highway. So we have submitted documentation to them, and we're collaborating on that and going through the documentation and making sure that we've met all the federal requirements. So we're in that process now. And at that time, once we've completed that, that's when we'll actually, SHA will make the draw on our behalf. So that's the $60 million piece. When the insurance proceeds are received, they will be in our operating account, and they will flow into our trust account at Boney. But separately, we will keep track of those funds because the insurance proceeds will be used for eligible expenses. So throughout this project, we will encounter some expenses that are not federally eligible. And what they look like, we're not far along to know that. And even some assumptions about repaying. When we get to the forecast, it is the best information we have right now. There will be some adjustments where, let's use the term negative and positive. Something will happen that's negative to us, but then something else will happen that's positive. And so right now, we feel like as more details becomes available, they will be offsetting. That's the best information we have now. But we will keep track of those insurance proceeds and how they're spent, as well as any ineligible expenses. We will do the same. We'll have very good records.
Great, thanks for that clarification. And then also, and some of the proceeds can be used for lost revenue, and we're going to come up with a computation for how to start drawing on the funds for anticipated lost revenue.
That is our current assumption, because our current assumption is that federal funds are at 90%. You know, there's lots of work that's being done for 100% federal funds, but as of this second, it's still 90. So our assumption is that we have the business interruption. Chantel told me what the recycling revenue has been so far, and to date, it's $1.2 million.
Thank you, Chantel. And then I guess, Deb, just one point of clarification would be the 60, as you reference it at State Highway. The reason it's at State Highway, because that's the federal quick release funds from the emergency program, right? So we have the 60, which is sort of color of money, and then the insurance will be, a separate.
Yes.
Right, and I would just, for all the members' awareness, I think, Deb, members of her team, along with members over at State Highway, are working really daily on working out the exact configuration and transaction protocols for everything, so we can certainly keep everyone updated as we kind of figure that all out. It's a very dynamic process, and appreciate everyone's collaboration on it. We're very lucky to have the modes working together very well on it.
Yes. The coordination with SHA, it's been seamless, as if we are one agency, as it should be.
Very similar to MDTA working so well with the Port Authority as well. So just thank you for that. Any other questions for the presenters before we look to a motion? Is there a motion to approve the amendment?
Member Ardinger also move.
Thank you. Is there a second?
This Member Von Paris, I will also second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those on the line?
Aye. Aye.
All right, we're approved. Thank you so much. Next on the agenda is an amendment to the current collective bargaining agreement, P34. Percy Dangerfield, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, members of the committee. Good afternoon. My name is Percy Dangerfield. I'm the Chief Administrative Officer for MDTA. And today, I want to speak to you all to seek approval from the Maryland Transportation Authority Board to amend the current collective bargaining agreement with FOP Lodge 34, which will create an assigned vehicle patrol program for sworn MDTA police officers. So on June 18th, 2024, the MDTA and the FOP reached a tentative agreement to modify the current collective bargaining agreement per the reopener clause under Article 25, Section 2 By way of background, this amendment reflects the MOU between MDTA and FOP Lodge 34, which was effective on was still in effect July 1st, 2022 until June 30th, 2025. Specifically, a reopener clause referring to the agreement to negotiate a patrol vehicle program. There are 4 key elements to the agreed upon proposal, which are on or before July 1st, 2024, MDTA will provide 25 patrol vehicles from its existing fleet for assignment under this program. The patrol vehicles shall be assigned to bargaining unit members defined by seniority as defined in Article 7. On or before June 30th, 2024, the MDTA shall also order 75 additional patrol vehicles for allocation to bargaining unit members who have not been assigned an agency patrol vehicle. On or before July 1st, 2025, the MDTA shall order an additional 90 patrol vehicles for allocation to bargaining unit members who have not been assigned an agency patrol vehicle. And lastly, on or before July 1st, 2025, the MDTA shall provide an assigned patrol vehicle to every bargaining unit member, inclusive of an unassigned pool vehicle fleet, to ensure additional vehicles are available or needed for any unforeseen circumstances. The MDTA will determine the type of vehicles that we purchase. This will be based on business need. However, we are providing an approximate cost for your convenience. The cost to purchase 75 vehicles is about $77,000 per vehicle, or $5.8 million in total. And this total does include radios, digital cameras, lights, and all the equipment used for upfitting. The cost to purchase the 90 vehicles, again, is $77,000 for a total of $6.9 million, which also includes the upfitting equipment. So in addition, MDT also anticipates the need for additional mechanic services and mechanics to maintain the vehicles in good working order. We've asked the FOP, and they have agreed to partner with us to find workable solutions moving forward with the maintenance of the vehicles. I also want to acknowledge the negotiation team, which was led by Tanya Dorsey, who's our Director of Office of Human Resources and Workforce Development. And the team also included our Principal Counsel, Kim Millender, Chantel Green, Director of Finance and Administration, and Manny Crew, who's the Executive Officer for Colonel Scott for the MDTA Police. I am available for any additional questions, and the negotiation team is also here if you have any additional questions. We seek your approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Percy. Any questions?
I got a question. Percy, we were ordering next couple of days, if we haven't already, 75 additional patrol vehicles. Was this in the same amount that we were going to ordinarily buy at this time, or are we accelerating our purchases?
No, actually,
we
we're
have a new car.
Yeah, so actually we're implementing the patrol vehicle program, so these will be additional cars. So typically we do not have a patrol vehicle assigned program.
Like 2 for 1, I guess. I mean, 2 people use the same vehicle, or?
I don't think they share cars, but it possibly, depending on the operational use. But typically the cars we have now are at different locations or different patrols or different stations, which are used when officers come in. There are some officers that do have assigned cars already. It depends on the actual assignment that they have. And this particular program right now will offer the officers who are not assigned police cars, so we'll actually be able to include the program. And I see
165 vehicles in the next year, right? 75 now and then 90 next year?
Yes.
Correct.
So when we do that, are they going to have the same number of vehicles under your control, or they're going to be 160 more?
Okay, so
Same number.
I'm trying to
Scott.
figure out if we were going to buy these
Yeah.
anyway,
yeah.
or were they all new
Replacement.
purchases?
So it's going to be a slow implementation. So the first 75, because totally it's going to be 165. The first 75 will be then handed out. Now you got to understand also it's going to take time for it to come in. So we're talking about ordering. So it can take anywhere from 4 to 6, 7 months for them to come in. So it's going to be a slow process, ordering them and then getting them out. When it's all over and done, every sworn member will have a vehicle.
Right.
But it's going to take a process of about a year and a half before they all come in.
And so therefore, it is an increase in the number of vehicles,
I mean,
It's-
how big an increase?
roughly
107.
160.
160.
64.
Increase in vehicles, that the detachments, some vehicles today are, I think you refer to them as hot seat cars. So depending on the shift, different officers will use the same vehicle. Under this agreement, each officer is assigned a vehicle, and therefore we have an increase in the number of vehicles.
Secretary, just as a follow-up to Member Gaines, how many are take-home cars approximately now at this point? Colonel, do you know approximately?
Roughly 180 so, and that would be, for currently, sergeant and above already have take-home vehicles. So this is taking care of corporals and below.
Okay.
So we're roughly halfway there already, and this is going to take care of the other half.
Okay, got it.
Member Archer? Just recognizing that this is actually a quick turnaround, that by July 1st, 2025, we have to have all these cars, and they are specialized. What if, for some reason, beyond our control, we're not able to get the sufficient number of cars by July 1st, 2025?
Well, our obligation in the agreement is to order the cars. So we've worked closely with the FOP, and they understand the process. So we should be okay. So that's our initial obligation. I just wanted to also add that initiating this program is an important program, and it will ensure that our MDTA Police Department is on par with other agencies that already have take-home vehicle programs. So this is something we've been working with the FOP and the command staff for quite some time.
But I think to the member's point, hopefully somewhere between the January ordering deadline and the delivery timeframe in July, if there's any, delays, we'd certainly communicate if something
Absolutely.
like that were to arise. But hopefully the supply chain, continues to move along in our favor.
Absolutely.
I guess I got a couple of questions. One is, hey, this actually sounds great. There's going to be more police cars out on visible. So hopefully that's a deterrent to crimes. And so not only is the MDTA going to benefit, but some communities are going to benefit. Is there any recourse we can get from that? Like, can we get any funding for that to help us out? I know the answer is no. But certainly there's going to be benefit beyond the MDTA, which I think
Without
is.
a doubt, without a doubt. And we have a excellent working relationship with our allied partners, so, and this will help. We're already assisting allied agencies around the state,
Right.
so this will also afford us the ability to do that even more freely operationally because you have more vehicles. Case in point, currently you have a number of vehicles at one detachment, but they are vehicles that are being used some around the clock. So you're also going to cut down on the wear and tear. When an individual has a vehicle, number one, they're going to take care of it.
Certainly
And
hope
number
so.
two, the vehicle is not running for 24 hours, it's only running for 8 hours.
Right.
So the vehicles will last longer as well. So there's a lot of benefits. And then it's a force multiplier. As you know, as I spoke before, we have quite a few vacancies in the agency. But what you're doing now is you're multiplying the visibility. So
Right.
even though we have less numbers, it appears as though we have more. And that's a plus as well.
Right. It's good marketing too, right? I guess, so my second question is, obviously, we recognize that it's the FOP contract. Is this number already in our budget? So we're already, great, so that's good.
Yes.
The part that I guess is open-ended in my mind is the need for additional mechanical services, and that we're going to partner with FOP to work that out. That sort of seems open-ended to me. So I don't know if you can explain that a little bit better. I mean, I get, it's great, we're going to work together, that's awesome.
I'll take the first stab at that partnership. So right now, as the board is aware, we, as an agency, and I, particularly in the state, there's a shortage of heavy equipment mechanics, just mechanics in general. So over the course of this rollout period, we will focus on our hiring for mechanics through apprenticeship programs and other avenues to bring more folks on. We are also we have a project that's part of this total package that will enhance our current maintenance facilities And we also have an opportunity to do some things a little different with the way we maintain our current fleet and the police fleet in terms of, what we focus on or outsource. So these are some of the things that we're working with the FOP. We're actually going to work with them as long as they have other suggestions. I think the primary point of this through the negotiations was just being transparent with the FOP. So collectively, we understood the challenges, so we did agree to work together. Yeah.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Quick follow-up on that. What kind of warranty will we get on these cars?
I think it's regular factory warranty. I'm not
Yeah.
aware of any other.
What is that? 6 months?
Yeah, not sure. We'd have to get you the exact details and talk to
So all
fleet.
these new cars, you shouldn't need
Correct.
additional mechanics initially.
Correct. Correct.
Yes, the cars will come with the factory bumper-to-bumper warranty for 3 years or 36,000 miles.
3 years, very good. That's another way of covering for not having the mechanics, get a better warranty, get the factory take care of it.
Right.
Sorry, I was just going to answer the question about whether or not there's funding in the budget. So for the 75 cars, Jeff will present in just a moment, there is funding in the fiscal year 2025 budget for that. With respect to the 90 cars that are going to be ordered on January 1st, as it was discussed, it typically takes between 4 to 6 months, so we anticipate putting funding in the fiscal year 2026 budget for that. However, should the cars come in sooner than anticipated, if we can't absorb those costs, we'll naturally come back to you all with the budget amendment request. Thank you.
Okay, one last question. Now, with these 100, for the officers, corporal and below, who are getting these 160 new cars over the next 2 years, what happens to the cars they were currently driving?
Currently, they're only driving car, they drive their personal car to work.
Right.
And then they take the car that's at the detachment for patrol purposes,
Well,
park it.
that's what I'm asking, what happens to the one?
So you have to, there's gonna be a number of vehicles that is still kept for the purpose of cars breaking down,
Right.
fail, and so on and so forth. But the first part of this is 25 vehicles are gonna be handed out immediately to senior personnel. Those 25 are being taken from the detachments. So now the detachments, until the cars come in, are working with less amount of fleet, even though they have officers there who do not have cars. So we have to balance that out operationally as well.
You'll have more cars, but you're not sure quite how it's going to work out. Right?
Yes, in due time, we will, but in the beginning, we're going to have to really pay attention.
Right. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, just point of clarification, so, Chantal, so you mentioned, so I see the 5.7 million in the forthcoming budget that we're gonna discuss in a second, of 5.7 million, and then there's $500,000 for vehicle gas and repair due to the additional vehicles. So that's the only impact on this specific budget related to this matter.
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
Glad you said that, because I did see it.
Members, Carol and Sneed on the line, do you want to overlook you? We had a bit of discussion on this item. Want to make sure no questions on your end?
No, I'm just glad that this member Sneed is bringing us on par with other agencies throughout the state, as explained by Chief Scott.
No, thank you so much. All right, seeing no other hands raised for right now, is there a motion?
I'll make a
to
motion,
approve?
Member Cox, to approve.
Is there a second?
Member Ganjami, I'll second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, motion passes. Thank you, everyone.
Been doing great.
We'll take a brief programming change here.
Good afternoon, Paul Wiedefeld, Chairman, and thank you, Deputy Secretary Biddle, for filling in. I apologize for being late. We had a big event. I see where you were red tie. Thank you, Mr. All righty. Agenda item number 5, correct? Is where we are? Great. And that is the fiscal year 25 final operating budget. Mr. Brown?
Okay, thank you. I'm here for the purpose of requesting approval for the fiscal year 2025 final operating budget. The proposed fiscal year 25 operating budget is $434.1 million, which represents a $13.4 million or 3.2% increase from the preliminary budget. The key drivers are mandated personnel expenses, increased collectively bargained police patrol vehicle purchases, higher insurance costs, some additional management study activities, and all these are partially offset by reduced credit card fees. Typically, in looking at the analysis of the budget, we break it down into both mandated and discretionary changes. And you can see the mandated increases are $6.8 million. There are some discretionary additions of $9.8 million and discretionary reductions of $3.2 million. Drilling into the mandated increases of $6 million, as mentioned, they're typically personnel expenses that drive most of this. Specifically, salary increases totaled $3.8 million, which included the following expenses: a longevity step, which increased the budget by $1.3 million; an annual salary review increased the budget $1.1 million; a 3% civilian COLA increased the budget $1 million; and an annualization of the compression salary adjustments increased the budget $0.4 million. And also, there were additional fringe costs such as employees and retirees' health insurance, which increased $1.9 million, pension costs $0.8 million increase, Social Security had a $0.3 million increase, excuse me, law enforcement pension system had a decrease of $0.2 million, while all other objects resulted in a $0.2 million increase. The operating budget had a $9.8 million discretionary increased spending budget. The key variances are the vehicle purchases, which increased $5.7 million, primarily due to the collectively bargained police control vehicles. If you recall, I don't know, I think you may have had a side conversation I couldn't hear, but the number you probably heard was $5.8 million. That's included in here. The 5.7 is a net number. There were other there's other vehicles besides the police vehicles, so that was a net number. Insurance increased $1.9 million based on 24 actual activity, which is due to continued market pressures and an anticipated increase in premiums following the Key Bridge collapse. Management studies and consultants increased $1.3 million, primarily due to O&M consultants and some bikeway, pedestrian, walkway studies. Vehicle gas and repair increased by $0.5 million as a result of the additional vehicles. Engineering expense increased $0.2 million due to increased activities such as historic environmental reviews. In addition, included in here were some contractual employee step increases, but they totaled less than $0.1 million. All other increases across several objects went up $0.2 million. We also had a $3.2 million reduction in discretionary spending. The key variances are fiscal services or credit card fees, which declined by $1.8 million. This is a result of anticipated cost savings associated with credit card processing interchange rates following the implementation of enhanced credit and debit card transaction data. This additional collection is anticipated to reduce fraud, which reduces our rates. Building repairs and maintenance decreased $0.6 million due to lower contracting costs and aligning the budget with recent activity. Equipment repairs and maintenance declined $0.3 million due to reduced repair costs associated with newer equipment, and advertising decreased $0.2 million, reflecting or aligning with recent activity. All other decreases totaled $0.3 million across various objects. In addition, you can see down below that the head count did not change. It stayed flat year over year. That concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to take questions at this time.
Any questions for Mr. Brown? Member Carroll or Sneed, any questions?
No questions for Member Sneed. No, sir.
Thank you.
This is Member Gangemi. I'll move for approval.
Okay, is there a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
All right. Agenda item number 6, draft fiscal year 2025-2030 Consolidated Transportation Program. Ms. Marriott. Good morning.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm Jeannie Marriott, the Capital Program Manager, and I'm here today to ask for your approval of the proposed draft fiscal year 25-30 Consolidated Transportation Program. The draft CTP was recommended for approval by the Capital Committee on June 6th and by the Finance and Administration Committee on June 18th. The six-year fiscal year 25 to 30 budget in the proposed CTP is $5.1 billion. Excuse me. The proposed CTP reflects a net increase in the six-year 25 to 30 budget of $2 billion. So if we turn to attachment 1, we can see how we arrived at this $2 billion increase. So these tables compare the draft CTP to the final fiscal year 24 to 29 CTP that was approved by the board in November. And these numbers are smaller. Okay, so we're going to be mainly looking at the column that says total 2025 to 2030. So that shows in the green what was in the final, and the orange what we're asking for, and then, of course, the amount of the change. So line 1, we see that the replacement of the Francis Scott Key Bridge adds $1.7 billion to the program. In line 2, the Nice Middleton Bridge increases the six-year CTP by $4.7 million. And as I mentioned at the committee meetings, that is not an increase in the cost of that project, it's just a cash flow change. And that's the same thing for the I-95 ETL Northern Extension on line 3. That's a $64.1 million increase. The remainder of the CTP without the reserves is a $132.2 million increase. The reserves increased by $101.9 million. And the remainder of the CTP, including the reserves, increased by $234.2 million, and that's just the two items added together. And that brings us back to the total increase of $2 billion. If we look over in the first column, the 2024 column, we see that we had predicted that we were going to spend $563 million in fiscal year 24. Our prediction now is $434 million, and that gives us underspending of $128.5 million, which has been rolled over into the six-year CTP. Now, if we go to attachment number 2, this shows the projects that had the cash flow or budget changes in the fiscal year 25 to 30 period. The first section, we had 14 new projects that netted a $1.7 billion increase. Second section, we see that there were projects modified to reflect bids received. There were 5 of them, and the net increase in the six-year period was $6 million. And there were projects modified to add construction phase. The construction phase of 3 projects was funded for a total of $33.1 million, transferred from the reserves as design reached 60%, and cost estimates were developed on fully developed scopes. Then on page 2, there were 14 projects completed, and the Key Bridge redecking project was canceled for a net $6.3 million decrease in the six-year period. And starting on page 2, and all of page 3, and at the top of page 4, are 61 active projects that were modified due to cost changes and cash flow adjustments for a net increase of $142.5 million. And we see that the reserves increased by $101.9 million. Then in the last section is a summary of the project and budget reserve changes, and that brings us back to the $2 billion increase that we saw in attachment number 1. Moving on to attachment number 3, this shows the breakdown of the $5.1 billion six-year CTP by facility. And $1.9 billion, or 37%, is budgeted for the Key Bridge facility, and $1.7 billion of that is for the Key Bridge replacement. And then the second largest amount is for the Kennedy Highway facility at $1 billion, or 20%. And $469 million of that is for the ETL Northern expansion. Then attachment number 4 shows the categories of projects. And as expected, bridge replacements are the biggest slice of the pie at $2 billion, or 39% of the 6-year CTP. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions or comments from the chair? Okay. All right, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
I'll second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right,
Aye.
thank you. Thank you. Agenda item number 7 is approval of the financial forecast.
Thank you.
Ms. Green, thank you.
Good afternoon. For the record, I am Chantel Green, Director of Finance at the Maryland Transportation Authority, and today I'm here to present the fiscal year 2024 through 2030 financial forecast for your approval. In a moment, I'll discuss the primary differences between the current forecast and the forecast that was presented to you all in November. However, before doing so, I'd like to direct your attention to the key takeaways noted on the first page of the memo. You'll note that through fiscal year 2027, the authority remains in compliance with its financial goals and legal standards. This is 1 year shorter than the November forecast, which assumed debt service compliance through fiscal year 2028. Despite the loss of the FSK Bridge, the authority has sufficient cash flow and capital reserves in fiscal year 2025 to support additional expenses associated with the FSK Bridge replacement without external support. Based on current forecast estimates through fiscal year 2028, beginning in fiscal year 2028, a system-wide total increase will be necessary to maintain 2 times debt service coverage throughout the remainder of the forecast period. The next page outlines the primary differences between the current forecast and the most recently approved forecast. Regarding toll revenue, the forecast reflects a $153 million decline in toll revenues throughout the 2024 through 2030 forecast period. The majority of the reduction is a result of reduced revenue associated with the closure of the Key Bridge. The forecast assumes a 40% recapture rate for passenger and commercial vehicles diverting from the FSK facility to the FMT and BHT facilities, resulting in a $141 million reduction in toll revenue during the 4-year closure of the Key Bridge. Additionally, toll revenues were also reduced by $4 million during the forecast period following the re-benchmarking of the harbor crossing facilities based on fiscal year 2024 actuals through February. For your reference, a copy of the updated forecast can be found in attachment 2 of your materials. Next, operating budget expenses increased by $153 million throughout the forecast period. A significant portion of the increase is due to the $85 million fiscal year 2024 budget amendment for debris and salvage removal. The balance of the increase, $68 million, is mostly due to personnel costs, collectively bargained for police patrol vehicles, management studies, property insurance, most of which are compounded in future years. Capital expense increases by approximately $2 billion, mostly due to the replacement of the FSK Bridge. Bond issuances and debt service costs increased by $374 million and $65 million respectively over the forecast period. This is due to lower toll revenues, coupled with higher than anticipated operating and capital budget expenses that reduce the amount of PAYGO or cash funding available for capital spending. The forecast assumes that through fiscal year 2025, we'll spend down our $350 million in insurance proceeds. If you refer to the insurance proceeds table in the write-up, you'll see that the forecast assumes that the first call on the $350 million will be to repay the federal government for the $60 million in initial emergency relief, which is referred to as quick release in the table. That will leave a balance of $290 million to be retained by the authority. $25 million is to be used for additional debris and salvage removal costs, which was recently mentioned as part of the 2024 budget amendment. The forecast assumes that the authority will keep a portion of the insurance proceeds for business interruption related to lost revenue at the FSK Bridge over an 18-month time frame. The forecast also assumes that the authority will retain 10% of the proceeds for its share of the eligible project costs, and that the remaining balance, estimated to be $197 million, will be used for FSK Bridge replacement project costs. Regarding federal funds, the authority anticipates that it will resume receiving federal funds after the insurance proceeds are exhausted. beginning in fiscal year 2026, it is assumed that the authority will be reimbursed by the federal government for eligible project costs at a 90% federal, 10% MDTA split, with a one-year lag from the time the costs are incurred until the authority is reimbursed. Moving further down, the funding source table shows that the estimating funding sources for the $1.7 billion in capital costs associated with the Key Bridge reconstruction. It shows that it's assumed that approximately $1.4 billion, or 80%, will be paid for with federal funds, $197 million, or 12%, will be paid for with insurance proceeds, and that the remaining $151 million, or 8%, will be paid for using MDTA funds. It should be noted that discussions with the Federal Highway Administration are ongoing regarding the use of insurance proceeds and federal funds. Additionally, there's a potential for Congress to act within the next few months to allow for 100% funding as requested by the Maryland delegation and the Biden administration. As with any forecast that we present to the board, the authority's assumptions will be adjusted as necessary during the next regularly scheduled update of the financial forecast for approval, which, as Deb mentioned, is in November. Lastly, as previously mentioned, based on the current forecast estimates, beginning in fiscal year 2028, a system-wide toll increase will be necessary to maintain 2 times debt service coverage throughout the remainder of the forecast period. Those are the major changes reflected in the forecast. I'd be happy to respond to any questions. Thank you.
Any questions on the forecast? Any comments? Mr. Chairman?
I'm sorry. Just for the future expenses, where do we think we're going to be on insurance? Can we guess anything at all what insurance costs are going to be? I mean, are we taking an insurance hit because of the bridge? Like, do we now have a claim against us that's going to significantly increase our costs?
Right.
Just like, if it happened to me at home.
Yeah.
I know it's probably not an easy question to answer, but I'm just throwing that out there because it's something we've talked about is we need to plan for that if we're going to be doing a toll increase, we got to factor that in too.
So we assumed our insurance premiums increased, not directly because of the bridge.
Okay.
Because when we had our rates this current year, the brokers had indicated that it's likely that we'll see further increases. And that communication occurred well before the FSK. So we made that assumption in the budget. We increased the budget by roughly $1.6 million. So I think the total is somewhere around $8 million is what we're assuming insurance premiums will be. We are trying to take some steps to mitigate risks, to help with premiums, but we won't know actual premiums until the fall.
I do recall we talked about this, just the general marketplace a while back, that we anticipated this for sure. Any other questions, Mr. Chairman?
Just a comment. I guess we knew we were heading in this direction to begin with, and accelerated a bit when we had to divert the commercial vehicles, hazmat vehicles, to the other side. You mentioned that in the report, but we're going to get there faster to the increase.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean that's.
So the diversion that's happening, right?
Right.
Yes, we've been talking about the fact that we will see diversion. And so proactively, we reached out to our independent traffic and revenue consultants, which is CDM Smith, and Chantel included their letter in your materials to ask them to evaluate what do they forecast the revenue impact to be associated with the Key Bridge. And that's the $151 million reduction that this forecast shows in revenue. $141 million of that reduction is attributed to the Key Bridge. And that $141 million, it's a combination. It's hazmats, it's passenger vehicles that are going south on 95 that's choosing to go around the Beltway instead of through the tunnel, or the reverse, coming north. The 141 is of all vehicle classes.
Okay, and then just to follow up on Member Gangemi's question about the insurance, I know we talked about it before, but the question is, I guess, it's not, our increase in insurance was not due to an experience issue. It was due to the cost of, inflation, everything that goes along with it. And, it's here to stay, and it's unique, and we're not, it's throughout the country.
Yes.
As you mentioned.
The prior
But it's not-
increases
but
that
it's-
we've experienced have been a combination of the industry across the nation, as well as inflation, because the cost to replace or repair has increased significantly. So the increases were a combination of those two. And, the state treasurer's office is experiencing it in assets that it insures. MDOT is experiencing it in assets it insures. So it was not specific. What will hold for this fall when we renew, our assumption right now is it will be those two factors. That, we don't know yet.
But we do not anticipate the experience to impact our premiums.
We're not expecting to be penalized because of the collapse of the bridge.
Okay. Thanks.
But,
Any other questions? If not, is there a motion for approval?
Member Arndinger also move.
Thank you.
I'll second, Member Gangemi.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Thank you. Okay, agenda item number 8, biannual review of revenue sufficiency. Ms. Green
The
again.
authority's board operating policy requires a biannual review of revenue sufficiency to determine if current rate and fee levels are appropriate based on levels of expected spending. The biannual review of revenue sufficiency is essentially a complement or companion item to the financial forecast. The financial forecast that was just presented shows that the authority's current toll rates, as well as fees and discounts, provide enough revenue through fiscal year 2027 to meet forecasted spending and all legal and policy requirements. That completes my update. Thank you.
Any discussion or comments? Thank you, Ms. Green.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 9, major projects, quarterly update.
Big shoes to fill there, Brian.
He can do it, he's good.
Good afternoon. For the record, I'm Brian Wolf. I'm Director of Project Development for MDTA. Excuse me. Here to present major projects that are valued over $40 million. There are 14 projects on today's list. There are 10 under construction, 3 in procurement, and 1 in design. The first project is MA 2257. This is the electronic toll collection. Major update here, or slight adjustment, I guess you could call it. The estimated completion for the ETL section from Maryland 43 to Maryland 152, the completion date has been shifted to the end of October of this year. The cost for the task order work for the entire ETL program is still in a rough order of $6 million. Next project is the Nice Middleton Bridge and campus. The stream or off-site stream restoration work has been completed for the project. This was to address impacts, environmental impacts from the campus and the bridge. Demolition of the existing administration building has also been completed. Demolition of the remaining portion of the existing bridge was on hold as our contractor had demobilized to the Key Bridge. They are now remobilizing and should be starting that work here before the end of the month.
Since you're on that, do we have any issues with migratory fish or anything while we're doing that? We're okay to do that now? Or is it gonna get partially done and then get put off until another period?
No, we're working with the agencies on that. They're aware of how we've had to demobilize and remobilize, so they're working with us on it. Yep. Our next project is FT 2651R. This is the ventilation improvements to the Fort McHenry Tunnel. We completed the installation of bulkheads for the supply ducts, and duct balancing plates have all been adjusted in the supply and exhaust ducts. There is a master control center that we're still waiting on. That was, I think, reported in the last update. There's some shipping issues with that. It's the shipping date has slipped on that, so we're still waiting for that piece to come in. Next project is KH 3009. This is the Maryland 43 to south of 152 ETL northbound extension contract. The project remains behind schedule, and that was due to some of the foundation redesign and some issues with the subsurface bedrock that was encountered during construction. But we are still scheduled to have the ETLs there open at the end of 2024. We continue construction at structure S1 and S3. That is the big and little gunpowder bridges. We're progressing on the foundations there for the piers and abutments, and we continue with some of the concrete work that's progressing. We've also started...
Just one question. I mean, pertains to all of these, obviously. When, I mean, I know you're behind a little bit, but as far as the 4 interchange at 152, when is your projection at this point? I mean, I see winter of 2025, but really realistic at this point.
So they're still showing a schedule where they're completing by the end of this year with getting the ETLs open. There's still work to be done. We're getting into that fall-winter timeframe. Paving gets a little bit questionable with the temperatures. There will be some work that's going to creep into 2025 to get the completed contract.
All right, I see, obviously, I go there regularly, obviously. The big gunpowder and the little gunpowder, how are those bridges you mentioned a little bit? Are they really going to be complete on time at this point?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And we also continue with installation of lighting in the various locations of the project there. Following on with that, we have the 152 interchange reconstruction project, KH 3019. We've completed the deck work on the S1 bridge. That's the main bridge over I-95. And we're working on the abutments that tie the ramps from the ETLs to that bridge. We completed pier protection at the Clayton Road Bridge. That was a higher barrier system that was required there, so that work has been completed. And we're doing some miscellaneous fencing along the project, electrical work throughout the limits, and we are slip forming median barrier at various locations. Next, we have the Belvedere Road Interchange project. Delmarva Power has started their pole relocations, so that work is partially complete. We did implement a one-lane traffic pattern within the vicinity of the bridge, and that went into effect at the end of May. We anticipate that that will be in effect through the summer of 2026. Pile driving activities should hopefully begin here either late this month or early July. And we continue with design packages through various levels of development. Next, we have the eastbound redecking project. Deck panel installation, along with truss strengthening, continues to progress. since it started in April. And pieces of the old deck panels have been recycled into reefing projects. Next, we have HT 2709. That is the envelope and switchgear replacement project at the BHT vent buildings. The contractors completed work on pile caps and grade beam for the Canton building to allow framing of the Vase stacks. We anticipate steel delivery in the next month, and we'll start framing those stacks as well as doing some welding work and continuing that construction. Next, we have HB 3001. This is cleaning and painting of the Thomas J. Hayden Bridge. Blast cleaning and painting has occurred in 5 spans since the last update. Excuse me. And we continue rigging operations to allow further progress in that operation. Our next contract is KB 3005. This is the subgrade improvements along I-695 near Bear Creek. Pile driving for the pile supported slab is progressing well. It's actually ahead of schedule. We've not been encountering any obstructions, and so that work is progressing to where we've actually started pouring sections of the slab. And that work will continue from now through the end of summer and into the fall. We also continue with various bridge repair work at the other bridges along the segment of 695. The next project, these are in procurement, these next 3. KH 3020, this is the northbound extension transition contract north of Maryland 24. DXI is the low bidder. We will be bringing this project to Capital Committee and Board in July. We initially had a conditional permit for construction with MDE. However, since that time, we have worked with them and have just received the full stormwater permit for the entire project. So the whole project is now open for construction once we get NTP. Next project is KH 3021. This is the Maryland 24 interchange project. This project advertised yesterday, so it is out to bid. And we will be looking to hopefully have bids by September. This project also had some issues with MDE permitting. We've had 2 meetings in June with them to go through resolution with comments that we've received. We will be resubmitting our package again to MDE before the end of this month in the hopes that we've resolved all their concerns and we can get the full permit for the project. Next project is KB 4903. This is the Francis Scott Key Bridge Replacement, the Phase 1 RFP. We are in procurement right now, and I will just leave it there.
The completion date?
We'll leave it right there, Brian. Thank you.
And the last project, design, this is KH 3025. This is the new JFK maintenance facility. The PS&E, we continue to work with MDE. There were some comments that needed to be addressed with the stormwater management. We are working through those issues with them. Our PS&E date has slipped a little bit. I believe the last time we presented it was in August. It has slipped now to September. And we did, however, receive Maryland Historical Trust clearance for the site. We received a letter for that, so that has been cleared. And that is it. Are there any questions?
Any questions for Brian?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, of course.
Not that I want to beat the Nice Bridge project up, but I just thought of obviously we had a contractor that left there to go hit our emergency project. I assume that we're tracking that because we should get paid for that out of however we get paid for the Francis Scott Key Bridge. Or any extra cost, so it's not going to the Nice Middleton project, it's actually going to the Francis Scott Key project. Is that, I think I'm asking that right?
Yeah, basically, in effect, the mobilization from that project to the other project,
Yeah.
right.
I mean, it costs us
Yeah,
money,
yeah,
so-
that's right. So we would,
We are tracking
Yeah,
those
yeah.
costs. I don't want to speak for finance and how that works. I'll be honest, the coordination with Federal Highway and how the funding
Right.
mechanisms
You know we're
work.
tracking it, though.
Correct, we are.
That's all we can probably do for right now until we figure everything else out. Okay, thank you.
yeah, I mean, they'll determine eventually the eligibility of all the costs, but we're definitely tracking it. Any other questions? Member Carroll or Sneed, any questions on the capital program or major project update?
No.
Okay. The only, thank you. Brian, the only one on the eastbound Bay Bridge deck replacement, are we picking up more rhythm as we do more of that, or how's that going?
Yeah, there was some discussion Tuesday with Bruce that I had. Obviously, there's a little bit of stumbling in the beginning. I'm aware that there was some issues with, I think, some closures between some of the panels. They've worked through that, found a system that works, and so as this progresses, they're getting better at this process.
Okay, good. And so no major issues that you see? I mean, normal growth pain issues, nothing more than that?
I think that's where we're at right now,
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
On that project, are we using precast concrete sections?
Yes,
And here they have a mega crane down there to set those.
there is, correct, yep. Yeah, they're setting them in segments, fully pieced together, and they just take out the old and sit in the new.
Member Gaines wants the opportunity to operate the crane.
Okay.
Thank you, Brian. Okay, agenda item number 10, information technology, major projects update. David?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Great to see everyone. For the record, my name is David Goldsborough. I am Director of Information Technology for the MDTA's Division of Information Technology. As of June 28th, 2024, the Division of Information Technology maintains an active portfolio of 22 projects and continued support of our third-generation toll system. An additional project was opened into the portfolio, Mr. Chairman, which is our Maximo 9 upgrade. I think it's important to give some visibility into that, given the size and the scope of that project. Some of the significant initiatives that I'll report out on today that we continue to work on, and I'll give updates. One is our HR Central conversion. We've completed the employee services acceptance testing, and that has been deployed to production. We've started planning and development on the next sprint, which is the initial approval request and reclass. And I'm going to speak, when I get to HRIS, Mr. Chairman, and the board, I'll speak to the impacts of that migration of the new system on HR Central. There are some tie-ins there. Pardon me. Our scheduling system enhancements, we've completed the integration between our appointment scheduler and the customer inquiry tracking system. The appointment scheduler, if you recall, is used in the stop-in centers. It allows customers to schedule an appointment, specific topics that they can cover, and it's boded very well. We've had good numbers out of that. We added an integration with our customer tracking system, also known as SITS. That's the EasyPass Operations uses that to track any escalations that come, Mr. Chairman, from your office, the governor, the TransCore system, any place at all. And so the tie to those two systems, to be able to know that one of those customers was actually at an appointment, has proven to be very fruitful. We also completed the satisfaction surveys. So we will generate customer satisfaction surveys when someone creates an appointment as well as after the appointment. And the goal there is to really just get some feedback on the ease of use for creating the appointments and also just some suggestions for improvements. So very excited about the work that's been done on that system. Our Maximo Spatial, as mentioned in prior updates, we've got elevators loaded into that system. The team is currently building out the asset management plans, and that's happening within Maximo as well. The project team will continue to onboard the remaining asset classes. I think generators may be the next group. This is really to support the build-out of that strategic asset management program and also, Mr. Chairman, to comply with MDOT policy. Our open text upgrade, happy to report we are pending close. This project is finishing out some remaining test items, but we will have this done over the next week or so. So this project will come off of the schedule in the next update. Our Dynamics upgrade, we are working on the payroll interface, which is actually the final component of the project work. Once that's done and tested, we'll begin training with our finance users for a go-live schedule. The PIA or payroll interface is on hold because of some other year-end closing and some other interface work that's being done, but I do anticipate that to wrap up, I would say, in the late July, maybe August timeframe. So hopefully the next update will have more information on that. HRIS, we are testing the interfaces from that system to our MDTA systems. We had interfaces with the old and the new system. There are not only going to keep those interfaces intact where needed, but we have the ability to actually add a few data points to that. So we're in active testing right now. The project team's doing a really good job there. We're going to evaluate the core functionality of HRIS against HR Central. So we do believe that there will be areas of HR Central that can be decommissioned. Some functional areas might need to remain. I think probably we'll let that run for about a year or so. HR Central, that is, HRIS is scheduled to go live in September. So probably in the September of 2025, we'll have a good feel for what elements of HR Central can be sunset versus what would need to stay in place. So we're going to take our time. There's no reason to rush that. So we'll have a good decision point there in conjunction with Ms. Dorsey's group, which is Division of HR. Data center enhancements, this is our power and cooling replacement project for the data centers, both JFK and ICC. We did receive the low bid for this project. The pricing proposal was approved by our infrastructure team and sent to procurement. We're looking for the work to commence shortly. I did have to make an update to that schedule. I think I'm showing an October timeframe. There was an issue with the pricing sheet, and it had to be resubmitted for the vendors to get back to us. But I think we're in good shape there. Our clearinghouse application, which is the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration System, we've demonstrated the consent process and data entry screens to the stakeholders. That's Poltronics Group. We're about 50% complete. We may evaluate the potential for using the new HRIS system for this as well. I think State Highway is investigating that and doing some testing on it. So this may end up being a stopgap, but we'll know more as we get into the go-live of HRIS, and we will do a benchmark comparison against this clearinghouse system that we're developing. But at least we'll have something that will comply with the federal mandate on this. Body-worn cameras, we finalized our project schedule for the rollout to comply with the legislative mandate of July 1, 2025 implementation. We've released actually the initial PO yesterday. We expect delivery of the body-worn camera equipment. We ordered everything at once. We expect to have that in the September to October timeframe. So it'll be a rollout per detachment, training, things like that. And then the most important thing that we have to secure is an upfitter to transition the car systems over from our current Coban system to Axon. Upfitters are really hard to come by in this area. The ones that we've had really good luck with are generally in the Philly, New Jersey area. So we'll have to work very close with the police, the MDTA police, and those groups to get that scheduled appropriately. It may take a little bit longer to get the car systems completed, but we certainly feel very confident that we will be right on par with the mandate for the legislation for the body-worn cameras. PRISM, I'm happy to say that is live. I think I reported that was live the last time, but there was some remaining items for the custom reports that had to be completed. The vendors completed that work, and this will also be removed from the tracking sheet for next time. Finally, our Maximo 9 upgrade. This is a major upgrade. IBM really has changed the architectural layout of their platform, which, if you know IBM, that's not atypical for them to do that. So And they also are handing out a date to sunset the current platform, we think probably in the next 2 years. So we want to be not necessarily an early adopter, but maybe a mid adopter, to be smart. So the biggest thing we're going to do is bring on an IBM resource to do an initial assessment in the December-January timeframe of this year. The actual upgrade work will probably commence in, I would say, the March-April timeframe of 2025. So we're in pre-planning right now. I think that there may not be a lot of updates on this, Mr. Chairman. It's mainly for visibility, but I do want to keep the board abreast of what's happening with this project as it gets its, into its paces. So most of the report will probably be on the onboarding of an IBM resource.
Great.
And with that, Mr. Chairman?
Great, thank you.
Concludes.
Thank you, David. Any questions for David?
Where's my laptop, right?
No, one of the things you do well is you actually make IT exciting, so.
Oh.
Thank you.
No.
I actually on pins and needles here, waiting for the next one. No, seriously, you appreciate the update, and
thank you.
I didn't fall asleep, so.
Good job, David. Thank you.
Good work.
Great, thank you.
Okay, agenda item number 11, Civil Rights Fair Practice, Socioeconomic Programs. Tia?
Good afternoon, Chairman Wiedefeld, board members. For the record, Tia Rattini, Director of Civil Rights and Fair Practices, giving a quarterly update on our socioeconomic programs for third quarter. On page 7, if we go to our DBE chart, we have our federal contracts actually progressing nicely. The I-95 exchange at Belvedere is currently at a 10.12%, which construction, hasn't started that long ago. So there's plenty of time, they should be meeting that goal without a problem. Nice Bridge replacement is at 17.79, which is above the 16.75% goal. The campus improvements is currently at 24.46% of a DBE goal achievement. That goal was 23.75. Our 3 CMI contracts for the Nice Bridge, the 3049 is at 27.22, which is above the 26% goal. AE 3050 is at a 25.47% goal, which is slightly under that 26%. And AE 3051 is at 21.45, again, under that 26%.
Any issues there?
There were issues because of the location that I'm going to say at the beginning of the contract, there were problems finding engineers and architects and, the lab people for these contracts, inspectors to go out to that, I guess, more remote area and finding them to meet the specs of the contract. I know that there has been a modification on 3051 recently, adding another DBE. So we're hoping, with the time frame that'll boost that up.
Thank you.
Is Cecil County considered remote? Is that why we're at 10%?
I guess for A&E firms and, finding the right inspectors and.
I'm assuming Belvedere Road's got a lot more to do with the fact it's still way early on.
Yes,
in the
absolutely.
process, so.
Yes, because construction's only been a few months.
Right.
In the
And yes,
start.
we're very remote, and we like it that way.
So on page 8, table 2, we have our MBE program. So currently, our utilization is at 21.02. And as you can see in the different categories of construction at 16.01%, A&E at 100% because we have a MBE prime contractor, which is great. Maintenance is at 6.78%, IT at 41.87%, services at 27.03%. Table 3 just gives a breakout of the different procurement categories to the ethnicities of the MBEs. And, that's staying pretty much in line with our previous quarters. On page 9, our SBR program, table 4, our current utilization is 2.90, which is below our state goal of 15. For designated contracts, we're currently at 0.39, and for non-designated, we're at 2.46% for that total of 2.90. Our veteran-owned Table 5, our current attainment is 4.47%, which is above the 1% state goal. And we do have a good number of veterans that have gotten some prime contracts, and that helps out with our participation, which is great, along with the subcontracting opportunities. And a lot of that is in construction. Are there any questions?
Small business reserve, obviously, we're just not finding the people, though, right? Is that
No, and
the issue?
Yeah, the guidelines that we have to follow is that when it comes to PRG, we have to reach out if there are small businesses that could act as a prime. So we have to email them according to the list that's in Emma and that are certified as a small business. And if we get 3 responses that they are interested, then PRG sets that as an SBR designated contract. However, when that contract goes out for solicitation, if they don't bid within, and Donna, correct me if I'm wrong, if it's 15 to 30 minutes before the bids are due, if we get no SBRs, then that gets pulled back, and we take the SBR designation off, and then it's an open solicitation.
Even if an SBR happens to win the bid,
Then
it
we
doesn't
can't
count as an
it.
SBR?
No.
Got it.
And the new legislation that goes into effect October 1st with that SBR goal going up to 20% from 15, now they're going to be looking at awards and not just payments. So that is really going to help us out.
That's going to help, okay, great.
Yes, yes, so keeping our fingers crossed.
Awesome, thank you.
Chairman, I just add a couple comments to what Tia said. Again, for the record, Percy Dangerfield, Chief Administrative Officer. So some of the challenges that Tia just noted are true. So some additional things that we're doing with the organizations where we are focusing or targeting our outreach efforts. We recently had a doing business with MDTA event. We actually hold it at TSO. We do this quarterly. So there is a focus to educate the small business community, let them know about the opportunities. We've also developed some partnerships with different chambers of commerce, such as the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce and a few others. So right now, it is challenging, but we are continuing to really target our outreach efforts and try to educate the community about the opportunities there. So, thank you.
I just want to give you the opportunity to say that.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Appreciate it, Member Cantini.
And we also speak, at our hosted outreaches, as well as all the other outreaches that we attend for other state agencies, GOSBA, to let the community know that, you need to keep your certification up to date on Emma and with MDOT, if it's MBE or DBE, and with the veteran and small business on Emma. Keep your profile information up to date, because if you don't have an email address on there for us to email you, then, how can we see if you're interested, or, for you to get that information to bid on a contract? So, there's a lot of small things, I guess, that,
Hey,
you gotta.
Thanks for plugging away.
We're trying.
You can only do what you can do.
We're trying, believe me.
Any other question?
I've always made the assumption, so I need to verify this, that when we talk about these Maryland program goals, are we looking at Maryland businesses only, or is this?
For the MBE program or the
For all of our goals?
We don't, as long as, I'm going to say they're certified as an MBE firm or a DBE firm. So the MBE state or the federal DBE, they have to be certified in the MDOT directory at TSO and be certified through that agency. The veteran and the small business, they have to be certified through Emma. And I know for the veteran, the Veterans Administration has an MOU, and they do that background check and certification for Emma. So as long as they're certified in the state, they don't actually have to be a state firm. Of course, if they are a federal firm or an out-of-state firm, and they're certified as MBE or DBE, they have to be certified in their home state first before they can come to Maryland and be certified.
And I understand, this is it's difficult to meet our goals, so already we have that. But do we give any preference to a Maryland business? Okay. You are, okay. Thank you.
Very good. Anything else for Tia? Thank you, Tia.
You're welcome. Thank you. Have a good weekend.
Yes, thank you. The Audit Committee met on June 11th, 2024. At that point, we were updated as to the status and informed that the Office of Audit is on track to complete the 13 audits in the fiscal year 2024. 7 audits are complete, 5 in progress, and 1 was combined with another completed audit. We did review, there was 1 internal audit report that was presented. That was the electronic toll collection vendor oversight and application security audit. That was discussed, and the committee was satisfied with the results of the audit.
Any questions? All right, update 13, Francis Scott Key Bridge. Brian, can you handle that?
Thank you, Chair, members of the committee. Brian Wolf and myself, on behalf of Executive Director Bruce Gardner, will provide the updates. Brian?
So, update on the exit 44, the tolling operations there. Last week, we issued an update on the status of the operations there to turn around. Tolling will not be in effect for vehicles on I-695 until further notice. We had originally made an announcement back on May 20th that would be lifted around the end of June. But we are going to continue to monitor the volumes of traffic using the area and how that may impact our revenue. We want to make sure we're doing as much as we can for to keep the truck traffic on the most appropriate routes as opposed to in the communities, following the collapse of the bridge. And after the first 2 weeks of the toll lifting, we did see traffic volumes returning slightly back to like 2023 levels. And just to round out that topic, we do plan to reassess the status of the turnaround tolling in late August, and then we'll issue an additional public notification on that when that determination is made. On June 21st, there was a site visit and a briefing with the U.S. Senators. Governor Moore and Lieutenant Governor Miller welcomed the Senate Environmental and Public Works Committee Chairman Tom Carper of Delaware and several of the staffers for a briefing and an update and a site visit for the Key Bridge. The chairman, Bruce, the Army Corps of Engineers and the Coast Guard provided high-level updates on what's been accomplished so far, where we were at, and the next steps and the challenges that might lie ahead. And this was an excellent opportunity to interact with Chairman Carper prior to the committee's hearing scheduled for July 10th, where they're going to be examining the response to the Key Bridge collapse. With regard to the public engagement for the rebuild, on June 11th, we did host a virtual community update on Zoom. We covered what had been completed so far, what MDTA and our partners were doing to reconnect resources to the community, and we took questions and heard from what the community felt mattered most to them. We did start with a pre-recorded message from Joanna Green, our Assistant Secretary for Public Affairs and Strategy, and then MDTA's Manager of Media and Public Affairs moderated the event, and Jim Harkness and I led the discussion and fielded questions at the end. We had around 540 attendees. There were 168 questions that were asked during the event. We were able to get to 51 of those during the actual live event, and then the rest would be answered subsequent to the virtual event. We did have a live poll. We had 4 questions that we had asked during that live poll. I'll just go over them quickly. Where are you getting travel information? What can be done to help support you and your community until the new Key Bridge is built? How has the collapse of the Key Bridge impacted your daily life? And have you benefited from any of the following Key Bridge collapse resources? We did get feedback on all those. I'll just simply ask if you'd like me to share the response we got on those, or.
Specific.
Okay. So that first question, where they're getting travel information, 26.5% respondents said Google Maps, Waze, GPS. Next question was, what can be done to help to support your community until the bridge is rebuilt? 38%, the top answer was help commuting to work, school, childcare, and appointments. How has the collapse of the Key Bridge impacted your daily life? 58% responded that it's obviously impacted travel routes and commute times. And then, have you benefited from the resources that we've made available? 18%. The top answer was the MDTA websites. So the engagement team is engaged and has scheduled several upcoming events surrounding community festivals and events. For example, the Dundalk Heritage Fair is going to be Sunday the 29th. Our team plans to be there. And then we will be following on with additional events in the Curtis Bay area, Riverside, Essex, North Point, other neighboring communities. And that calendar of events is actually on the website, keybridgerebuild.com. And just finally, just a little bit of an update on the salvage and debris removal contract. Obviously, the in-water work has been completed for some time. We finalized the processing over at the Trade Point Atlantic processing yard. Skanska, MDE, and Trade Point Atlantic, the owner of the property, they did a walkthrough earlier this week. And we're in the process of demobilizing that yard and returning it back to Trade Point Atlantic. And as I mentioned in the major project update, Skanska has begun their demobilization and are shifting their focus back down to the Key Bridge, or excuse me, the Nice Middleton Bridge.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? The July 10th, I think Bruce and I are in front of the Environmental and Public Works Committee. Yeah. All right, great. Thank you so much. All right, before we turn it over, Percy, if I could, we had a follow-up item right on agenda item number 2, the wide zone paint program. Donna?
Good afternoon. We just didn't want you to miss anything, Mr. Chairman.
No, that's right. Thank you.
So we're going to do a redo for you.
Appreciate it.
For contract FT 3016 for the cleaning and painting of structural steel. This is for the Fort McHenry Tunnel for the cleaning and painting. We advertised on December 5th of 2023. We received 3 bids. Sappho Contractors is being recommended for award for $22,977,770, 13% below the engineer's estimate. They are exceeding the MBE goal of 21% and meeting the VSBE goal of 1%. We did receive a protest. Earlier I said we did not, because I'm so used to us not having to report a protest because we've been very lucky lately. But in February, the second offerer did protest Sappho, which was a denied protest. They protested that Sappho didn't submit their QP1 and QP2 cleaning and painting certifications with their bid. It was not required at time of bid, so on that basis, it was denied. But they also claimed that Sappho didn't submit their Buy American Steel certification, but because of Sappho was providing domestic steel, it was not required. So again, it was
denied, and the appeal period has passed, and we're moving on. So we're asking for contingent approval pending a signed contract. We just got approval of the MBE plan, so we're moving forward pending your approval, contingent approval.
This is Mario. I will move for approval and add that we did discuss it at the capital committee meeting and gave contingent approval there. Correct.
Chairman, I'll second it. Member Cox.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Don.
Thank you.
Researching that for us quickly. Great. Mr. Dangerfield, Mr. Bruce.
Thank you, Chairman, for the compliment. I appreciate it.
Quick notice.
Good afternoon, Chairman, members of the committee. For the record, again, my name is Percy Dangerfield. I'm the Chief Administrative Officer for MDTA, and I will be providing closing remarks on behalf of Executive Director Bruce Gardner. First of all, I hope everybody's having a great summer. This is marking the end of June and the end of fiscal year 2024. Earlier this month, MDTA served as the host agency for IBTTA's Finance Summit and Road Usage Charging Summit, which was held in downtown Baltimore, June 9th through the 11th. Bruce was honored to join the chairman in having the opportunity to provide remarks to the conference attendees. We were also pleased to offer a technical tour, which is essentially an insider's view of the Fort McHenry Tunnel for all interested parties and participants. We want to extend thanks and appreciation to our Central Region operations team who organized and led the tour. The Fort McHenry Tunnel is one of the world's widest underwater highway vehicular tunnels ever built by the immersed tube method. Please do not ask me to explain what the immersed tube method is, but cars travel underneath the water. So it's an impressive tolling facility, and we're proud to have our IBTTA colleagues have the opportunity to tour it. The conference was also an opportunity for tolling agencies to come together to delve into substantial discussions on infrastructure project delivery, project finance alternatives, toll revenue assurances, data analytics applications, risk management, and best practices in financial management. The IBTTA represents 132 tolling operators, and we were so pleased that IBTTA's board of directors took the opportunity during the conference to issue a statement extending sympathies to the families of those who lost their lives in the FSK collapse, and also expressing strong support for MDTA's response and recovery efforts in the aftermath of the FSK bridge collapse. The IBTTA statement also urged the federal government to provide full financial support for the reconstruction of the Francis Scott Key Bridge. The statement of the IBTTA Board of Directors on the reconstruction of the Francis Scott Key Bridge is posted on IBTTA's website, and MDTA thanks IBTTA for its show of support. Also, Deb Sharpless was one of the chief meeting organizers, and myself and Bruce also want to take this time to publicly acknowledge Deb for all the work she put into for planning the conference. It was an outstanding job. On June 12th, MDTA Police Recruit Class 59 started. As of today, the class consists of 14 MDTA police recruits and 1 natural resources police for a total of 15 recruits in Class 59. Expected graduation is February 2025. We want to wish all the recruits the best of luck in their training, and we look forward to congratulating them when they graduate in 2025. So 2 nights ago, on June 26th, Bruce had the opportunity to attend, along with members Penny Auditor and Member Cox, a promotional ceremony for our police. The ceremony was attended by family and friends and recognized the promotions of 18 sworn MDTA police officers to new duty assignments. Anytime we get together to celebrate police promotions, it's very exciting. But Wednesday's ceremony had a little something extra. This particular ceremony, we had a chance to celebrate the pinning of our very own Colonel Scott as the new police chief. As we know, law enforcement is a very difficult job. To serve as a police chief is even more difficult. And it takes a steady, calm, focus on our people and a commitment to excellence and integrity. So Colonel Scott has refined these traits over 2 decades in law enforcement, and I can also personally contest to that. So we congratulate Colonel Scott for his promotion, well deserved. Also, since coming on board as the executive director in January, one of Bruce's priorities has been our workforce. So MDTA is nothing without its people. So Bruce is committed to expanding and enhancing employee engagement. In order to make our employee engagement efforts, we're moving in the same direction and supporting one another. We have launched an employee engagement roundtable. Now, this group will meet regularly to plan and discuss engagement efforts. Bringing the pieces of employee engagement together will strengthen and improve networking, accountability, exchange ideas, and suggest ways to enhance employee satisfaction and engagement. Also, to give us an opportunity to hear from leadership more regularly, which is something employees have asked for. Yesterday, Bruce held his first town hall. It was called Conversation with the Executive Director. It was an in-person with a live streaming option town hall event where he was able to discuss with employees MDTA priorities and take their questions. Because of that event, Bruce is committed to doing quarterly updates. Although the style may change from time to time from what we just did, he has committed to doing quarterly updates and also providing employees with opportunities to ask questions. One new way that we're doing this is keeping the town hall inbox open year-round. So if employees have questions anytime during the year, we'll be able to answer that. So looking forward, we'd like to wish everyone a happy and safe 4th of July holiday. Please drive safely. And Mr. Chairman and the board, this concludes my remarks.
Thank you, Percy. Any questions?
Mr. Chairman, I know Member Arger will have her own words, but the pinning ceremony that we attended not only was well attended, but the pinning of the chief by his lovely wife, who happened to be, if under my old term, would have been my constituent in those days in Harford County, but it was a moving, amazing event, and we were proud to be there. Penny.
I would just echo the same, and Chief Scott, we are so excited. Clearly by your remarks, we know we're in good hands, and we thank you, and thank you for letting us attend such a great event.
Any other comments? Colonel Scott, as you know, I unfortunately had to be up in New Haven, Connecticut for the Northeast Corridor Commission meeting, which is the Amtrak and all the dollars we spend with them. But again, congratulations, and I'm totally confident that you will do a fantastic job. So thank you, sir. Any other comments? Okay, that being so, we're at the point of the end of the agenda is complete. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Member Cox.
Second? Second. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. This concludes the meeting of the MDTA board meeting at 2:52. Thank you.